Rules for thee and rules for me. It's a good video to check out. Why do you play an A minor triad blues scale over C7 instead of G7 or C blues? Well, it's because I want to. See, there it is right there. It's the choice. It's a choice that you can make. There's no rule there that says you have to play C blues on the C7 blues, or you have to play C7 on the 4 chord. You have to play G blues over your C so you'll know what it sounds like, and then you have to learn how to make it work. See, those are all rules forcing that on you. That's why the video was rules for thee and rules for me. In other words, some rules always apply. Some rules always work, but you don't have to apply them always in their specific situation. In other words, if I could only play the A minor blues scale when it's an A minor chord, then I would start to be bored and I would start to sound boring or sound like I really haven't practiced much or lived much, because it's just going to get old. With the A minor, here's my A minor, that's my A minor 7, and then I have the A minor blues scale. Well, we could do that all day and it could be kind of fun, but when you start putting that A minor in other songs that have nothing to do with that key, it's going to obliterate the sound, it's going to sound weird, it's going to be obnoxious. So the point I was making here with this is that A minor is part of the C7. So you go C, E, G, B flat, that's 1, 3, 5, 7, then 9 is D, 11 is F or 4, sus, and then you have 13, which is A, and that's it right there, that did it, the A. Now if I go again in thirds, I'm going to hit C and E. There's my A minor triad. And if I can play A minor blues scale over an A minor chord, and this is how I do things, this is how I ask things, this is how I learned how to play. Not just jazz, but anything I had to improvise on or create with. The question is like an engineer's question or a physics question. So if I can play the A minor blues scale on A minor, can I play that blues scale on a chord if the A minor is part of that chord? And the answer is yes. And it will always sound good. And the one time it doesn't, you've learned when you don't want to do it. It's that simple. Because remember, this is an art form of the ear. We have to go by sound. So here's our C7, and here's my A minor. And here's my A minor blues scale. And so C blues, was A minor blues scale, and that is a great sound on the C chord. That's A minor blues scale, part of the C7. You won't have an A minor in the F7, but you'll have that E flat because it's the 7th of the chord. E natural is dangerous, isn't it? Because going up that blues scale, I mean, that's like completely obliterating. Now, you could make the E work, and there's a theory for that too, of course, but we don't want to get too far off the track of the question. So the A minor is not something you have to do on C7. It's something that you want to do whenever you want because it sounds good. So there's your choices. You want to play A minor blues scale? Fine. You want to play the G blues scale? We've already explained why that would work. Play the C blues scale on the F7. And then you could also play your C minor triad because it's part of the blues scale. You can play the C minor triad with great success on the F for all of the reasons we've talked about. So here's a C minor triad, and here's my F7. That was all C minor triad. Ooh, I hit a 9 in there, I'm so sorry. That's all C minor, and that sounds great over the F7 for the same reason the C blues scale does, because there's notes in that triad that go in that scale, or because they're related by key. That's why you want to study your diatonic system. And I'm getting more into those videos on this channel and spending a little bit more time on the diatonic system and building of theory that way, because there are always these gaps that occur, and you want to know your diatonic system and your basic scales in all 12 keys, because that helps you understand why I'm saying some of the things I say, or somebody else. It can save you so much time and energy knowing these things. So that's the C minor triad. It works well with the blues scale. And chord functions instead of just the color of the chord. Yes, right. You want to look at chord function as well as the color of the chord, because sometimes the color doesn't work even though it sounds good. Okay. It sounds good in some situations, but it won't sound good in every situation. And so that's why you have theory. I had a great theory teacher once who said, use your ear first and foremost. But if your ear is failing you and you can't make sense of it, then use your intellect and use your theory knowledge to solve your problem. If you can solve the problem with your ear, you're good because it sounds good. But if you don't understand why it's not working, then bring the brain into the thing and solve it with theory. And then you have everything. So you want to use both. Don't just use your ear, use your brain and your ear, but let them work together. And don't let your brain overshoot your heart, because your heart always is better off in the long run. Okay, and I think one chord is particularly suited for the blues scale of the relative minor, and so on. Mixolydian blues. Okay. Okay, so the last part of this I'm going to read out loud. I should... this is good. Meaning, just because they are all 5/7 chords in a blues doesn't mean I should just slap a scale on each chord. The one chord is particularly suited for the blues scale of the relative minor of E flat, and that's what we're doing there. That's where C blues comes from. And the Mixolydian blues scale doesn't exist. We've already covered that. So the scale that goes with the Mixolydian chord, or the one that goes with G, you might say that, but you wouldn't want to call it the Mixolydian blues scale. So we're good there. That term is gone. It's worth trying out, but it doesn't always work. And it might not always work on the 4 chord, although today we saw that it generally does sound good. It depends on your intention, your application, and your focus. It can work on all of them. We wouldn't say that's the overall scale. We'd say that because we know it, we can draw from it and do more. Well, that would be the thing, is that you don't just stick the scale on right. You're playing by ear, you're playing by sound, you're playing with your intellect at times. You're making decisions all the time. But your decisions you're making are by what you're hearing. What's the next thing you hear? And if you have a G blues scale under your fingers, you'll hear it. If you've never tried to put that in there or never tried to play those sounds, you're not going to try it. And sometimes trying it because I said to or someone else did, it won't sound good because it's not part of you. So use it, experiment with it, make it part of you so that you can do it or not do it, but it's always your choice. Remember, sometimes it's not always about right or wrong, it's about your choice. And that's what makes each player or improviser unique. That's a major problem we have in the world today. everybody wants to sound like everyone else so they'll be safe. But that's not the art form. And if I had done that when I was playing professionally as a teenager with jazz guys and playing into my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, they wouldn't have wanted to play with me, because that's not the art form. The art form is based on individuality and your way of saying things. Now, yes, there's a 3 and a 7 and a 9 and a sharp 11, and there's a blues scale and a scale like this and a scale like that, and sometimes they have a place, sometimes they don't. But trying to sound like everyone else is a waste of time and a waste of energy, because you get one life and it's your life. So live your life, and I hope I answered your question okay. And thank you so much for the question, and thank you for checking out the channel. And maybe this helps somebody who's brand new here. I hope you'll subscribe, and it's your choice. And everything is. Okay? I'll see you next time.